Hello and welcome to the 90-Minute Cynic podcast. I'm your host Chris Gallagher and I'm joined by Louis McCaffrey.
Hello, Christopher.
And Chris Sermanni.
Word up, Christopher.
Word up indeed. How are we, guys? Good?
Wonderful.
Aye, just enjoying a wee cup of tea there. I expected Chris Sermanni to go into a bit greater detail there.
Wonderful.
He's obviously keeping it for the rest of the show.
Yeah, terrific stuff. We're going to get right into it because we've got a busy show today. But we're going to firstly talk about Scotland. Scotland played Georgia and Poland last week. What did you think of the games, guys?
I was fairly impressed with Scotland. I think their performance in the Georgia game was really quite good. I saw a few press reports giving them a bit of stick because they only got one goal and they only won 1-0. But I thought some of their interplay outside the box and stuff was excellent. They look a really well organised side, and you can see that Strachan's put his stamp on them. Sorry, the Poland game, I thought they were excellent at points, but I think at the top level, I think the biggest problem they're going to have still their defence, especially their fullbacks. Hutton. There we go.
I've never been a fan of Alan Hutton for Scotland. I think the guy doesn't focus. He consistently bombs up the pitch, doesn't think about coming back. The amount of times you'll see him on the back screen where he's just jogging back when teams are attacking. He dropped Andrew Robertson for that game for Stephen Whittaker. Why would you drop anyone for Stephen Whittaker?
I don't know. I mean,
Experience, was it not? Someone said it was, or did Strachan not say before the game it was something to do with experience?
I think it probably was. I think he also said after the game that if he had 10 Stephen Whittakers, he'd have a bloody good team and all this. And it's the usual Strachan just bumming his players up, which I don't have a problem with. He's always going to defend his players, and he's obviously got that right to do so. But Stephen Whittaker showed in that game he's just not good enough at that level.
Well, this is true, and I know Robertson's played really well, but Strachan made the call, and you can't really argue with what he's done since he's taken the job.
Yeah.
So, although we are scratching our heads thinking about it, I mean, you need to give him a kind of a bye with it, do you know what I mean? I think with the Poland game as well, I don't know, I'll just throw this out to you as well. Do you think when Scotland went 2-0 up, they lost a wee bit of belief? I mean, I think they showed a lot of belief to get to 2-1, to stay in the game. But did you get the impression that you didn't think that they could hang on, and that's why they lost the goal?
I got the impression that they didn't know how to play against a team like Poland. A team like Poland away from home, I didn't know. I think they got caught in two minds almost. Do we defend or do we attack? And ultimately, it led to the equaliser. But it's a really good point. I mean, what did you think, Louis?
Yeah, I mean, Scotland are getting kind of overpowered. Then when Strachan brought on Dan Fletcher, it kind of evened up again, and I think they did kind of lose their way a bit. But possibly, I mean, obviously players they're going to learn for that, and you would hope that in the future it wouldn't be like that again. But at the same time, Strachan saw that there was an issue. They were getting overrun, and Poland were pretty much all over Scotland at that point in the game. Yeah. And he obviously saw what was wrong, put Darren Fletcher in there, and it shored things up.
Yeah, I actually thought Fletcher did very well when he came on. I'm not a huge Darren Fletcher fan, but I thought he used the ball very, very well every time he
thought he just brought a calmness to it at certain points, and he looked professional. You could just tell he knew what he was doing, and he was just slotting in there and picking up the balls.
He does the basic things really well, and it's probably a cliche to say this, but having a player that knows how to do that and just to fulfil that role is really important. Charlie Mulgrew is supposed to be the guy that does that a lot of the time for Scotland and Celtic, but a guy like Fletcher's done it at the top level, and he knows just exactly as you said, Louis, how to calm things down. I
think that the fact that Scotland have got a very attack-minded quite a few number 10s now, like you've got Snodgrass, Maloney, even Anya would come into that sort of position, Barry Bannon. it's taken the pressure off Fletcher, I think, to the point where he can do his job that he's been doing for Manchester United without the expectancy that he's going to dictate play.
For a long time, especially when he came through under Vogues, because he played for Man United, because Scotland had such a dearth of talent, they thought, he plays for a big team, he needs to make a huge difference, which he never did for Man United. He was the water carrier, if you will, the Deschamps sort of player, the guy that just tidied things up, passed it to a player who could play. And I think that's quite a good point. I think he's free now to just do what he does best. And you got to credit Strachan with that. You know?
Yeah, absolutely. Lewandowski's come out and complained heavily about Gordon Greer's tackle. Get over it, no?
Aye, get over it now. There's no point in... He's not still banging on about it.
It was a sending off.
It was awful. That Greer character, I don't know much about him, but it doesn't look as if he knows how to play football much.
He's the captain of Brighton, friend. Okay.
See, no, I mean that's listen. I know Scotland have done really well so far, and I'm not putting a downer in things, even though I'm just about to. But I think Scotland will narrowly miss out. And it's going to be down to down to their back four, because they've got a lot of quality from middle to front. They've got zero quality at the back. They don't have one top class defender. Now they've got a few very good goalkeepers, which may swing, which may prove me wrong.
Yeah.
But in terms of their defence, I mean, what's the Russell Martin? He's another one. He wasn't too bad, actually.
He wasn't too bad.
I'm actually a Russell Martin fan. I think Russell Martin's a really good player. I think the problem with Russell Martin is he's got Grant Hanley beside him, or he's got Gordon Greer beside him.
Well, I don't think he's a very good player, but then again, he's probably the best. He's probably the best of the central defenders that Scotland have got.
Yeah.
But I think that's going to be their problem. You've seen it against Germany. Individual mistakes cost them that night. Mistakes against Poland as well, and I think that could prove to be the deciding factor. And of course, we've seen Ireland scoring in the last minute against Germany. It's going to be a tight group,
Yeah. I was just going to say, I've already said a number of times on the show that I'm just not a fan of international football. I've never really been a big Scotland fan at all. But that's slowly been changing since Strachan came in, and I think it was
started to get quite good, Louis.
That was pretty much it. And I think I was looking forward to the games. I was more interested in those games that it just went, and I think it was possibly partly due to the fact Celtic were on a bad run, and I wasn't too bothered by the international break, so I watched the games, and I must say, for someone who's not a big fan of international football, I actually really enjoyed them, and I found myself after the Georgia game really looking forward to the Poland game. And just personally for me, I really did enjoy it, and I liked the play, that the style of play Scotland had, and it does make things more interesting. Yeah. Fair enough. I mean, I think there'll be a lot of people similar to me that now that Scotland have got a decent team, they'll be switching on to it, and you can't blame some people for that. But I'm genuinely optimistic and looking forward to the rest of the games in the group.
Listen, I don't see in terms. I've been a Scotland fan pretty much my whole life, right? But I understand why people don't watch it, because ultimately there's so much football on these days, and Scotland in the past have been so turgid and so boring and so just pish, right? That I can understand why people would turn off from it. And I don't think there's anything wrong with, there is only so many times in, hours in the day to watch football, so, it's not everybody's bag, I get it, but the better football Scotland play, the more people will support them. It's that simple. I'm
much the same as Louis. I've not really got much of an interest in international football either, but I wouldn't say I was looking forward to it, but I've always taken an interest in Scotland. I've always looked out for their results and fairly pleased if they win, not bothered if they lose. But not so much like just us, but I can see a lot of people post the referendum. I've got more of a national sense of national pride. There's people I've spoken to who previously couldn't give a toss talking about it, and I think that's obviously at the same time Strachan's taken over in a more formidable side. I can see that the national side are are more prominent with a lot of people.
I think if we'd got independence, it would have been a different kettle.
We'd all be sitting here in Scotland tops,
kilts and all that.
See you Jimmy hats.
But no, I think if Scotland had got independence, a lot more people would take an interest in the national team, because you would have an infinite more pride in your country, as opposed to the fact that we shat it. But Lewandowski, the tackle was a shocker, but get over it. On the Robertson front, I was speaking to someone today who was a huge Queen's Park fan, who was telling me that when Robertson was at Celtic, that Tommy Burns, basically, one of the last things Tommy Burns, before obviously Tommy died, but what he said was that Andrew Robertson was the best youngster that Celtic had of the crop at the time, and then Chris McCart decided that he was just too small and not good enough. It's crazy to think that Andrew Robertson could be our left back. We've been crying out for a left back for years. We got Azagiri, who was obviously, he was terrific in his first season, but the fact that we could have had our own, because I've always been calling out for the fact that Celtic haven't been producing fullbacks, something that we've kind of been known for the 60s and the 70s. But yeah, that just frustrated me today when I heard that. There's no real point to make.
We'd have probably ruined them anyway, to be perfectly honest.
That's it,
See, in terms of Celtic and players that we've lost, if youth players, there's very few that have went on to better things. Given, maybe Shea Given, Robertson. I'm struggling to think of too many others that that got away. So
Wanyama, but I know he's actually a first team player, but he's still only 21, I guess.
Wanyama?
Yeah. Oh, youth team.
I mean players that we've released and they've went on to better things.
Sorry, aye. Yeah.
There's very few that have actually come back and bitten us in the arse, and secondly, we'd have probably played them at centre half or something stupid like that. I think going to a smaller club definitely helps a player's development.
Absolutely. Let's kind of focus on the weekend. So Celtic played Ross County and it finished 5-0. It was terrific, I thought. Louis, talk me through your thoughts on it.
Well, I'm going to be positive for once about Celtic, which is great. I feel as if it's been a while since we really had much positivity for a Celtic performance in the league. Watching the game, I thought right away we looked as if our passing was sharp. We looked balanced with Lustig coming back and not having to worry about Ambrose. You just didn't think about him, so that was nice. But I thought we looked a lot more dangerous. We looked as if players were really putting in a shift and trying their best. And I think there was some brilliant performances. I thought Stokes, to give him credit, I thought he was very good, and not just because of his goals, but I thought he did play very well. His first goal was brilliant. I thought he done so well to take that. Johansson, man of the match by a mile, I think. But there seems to be such a kind of almost like a hysteria since after the game, and try to say that he was unbelievable. He played very well, but it was one game, and we've been critical of him so far this season. And I think he needs to do that more consistently for him to deserve the plaudits that he's getting.
I think that to kind of go with you on that point, his performance, and I mentioned this I think in the last podcast, his performance in Maribor was absolutely fantastic. I mean, he was again pushing forward. He dominated the midfield. He created chances. He almost took a couple of chances, and then the game after that, I can't remember off the top of my head, but he was rubbish. So it's all about consistency with someone like Johansson, and he looks, obviously he was man of the match on Saturday, and he played very well, and I won't take anything, but that was actually the second game he played well, because he was brilliant for Norway as well. Yeah,
and I think it's quite it's kind of worth noting that the other game this season where I thought he played very well was against Dundee United. Now, fair enough, that was Celtic's best game of the season, bar Ross